Salamat and hello everyone. Welcome today. Thank you for your interest in Serbia experience with digitization. My name is Milan Kovacevic and I'm a CISU resident advisor in Serbia. Today I will guide you through CISU work here in Serbia, which means that I will try to transfer some of SOCI implementation experience from Serbia. If I'm talking too fast, please give me some signal for interpreters. Let me first explain how health care system is organized in Serbia, who are main stakeholders, and how things are working here. After that, I will say a few words about history and digitization process. Then I will continue with tool selection that we just heard from Alimu, and finally I will finish with lessons we have learned. But before we proceed, here is a map of all countries that CISU work in. Serbia is, you can see a little green dot at the very north of this map, based in Eastern Europe. We was a part of Yugoslavia, and now there are 5 different countries with similar health system organization. So that is some inheritance that we have from past, but it is pretty much same system that we are using. And later on the slides, you will see how it's organized in Serbia. Digitization of health sector was one of top 4 priorities announced by the Serbian Prime Minister in her election speech back in 2021. In the current structure of the Serbian health system, there were several key entities that needed to be engaged in order to support this effort. The Ministry of Health, that you can see in the center, the Institute of Public Health, the National Health Insurance Fund, and the Office for IT and e-government, and of course the Prime Minister Office. The Office for IT and e-government is something similar to DTO that you have in Indonesia, but it is an entity for itself. It is not part of Ministry of Health. In Serbia, Ministry of Health is in charge of coordination and has the lead for policy and legislation of the health system. The Institute of Public Health, BATUT, is in charge of the collection and reporting of health data from the healthcare facilities, and the National Health Insurance Fund pays for health medical service, reimbursing the healthcare facilities based on the service that are reported to them. So basically, healthcare facilities are making invoices every month, and based on that, they're getting money from the National Health Insurance Fund. Office for IT and e-government providing hardware and software support at national level. Although these organizational structures were in place, the government was lacking a current e-health strategy and action plan, with the most recent document having lapsed back in 2015. This is small agenda where I will first explain National e-Health Steering Committee work, then the tool that Serbia firstly selected, and then CISU starts in Serbia. So in order to better support the overall digitization process, Serbia started work on development of an e-health strategy and action plan with the support of strategic partners to the government. The Prime Minister Office established a National e-Health Steering Committee, which was co-chaired by the Ministry of Health and chaired by the Prime Minister in Serbia. That happened back in January 2021. CISU in Serbia started on the Prime Minister initiative together with US Ambassador. Serbia was well underway with our e-health strategy development while CISU was starting up and had already done analysis across several relevant SOCI domains, all more or less with exception of data use. the Health Steering Committee was formed in January 2021 with few meetings where they formed working groups, technical working groups. One working group was formed in order to prepare and write strategy and action plan, which means they analyzed laws, existing strategies, documents, sub-laws, expired strategies, etc. The other work group, technical work group, has a task to work on e-health records, which means they had a task to analyze current state, prepare suggestions, and make an architecture for electronic health record. Source documents such as health sector strategies, like legal documents, were obtained by the group, and legal and policy analysis documents were drafted. First work group related to the strategy and action plan selected WHO National e-health toolkit at the time. Once we got started with SOCI discussions in June, we realized it would be much better if we had started with this working group at the beginning of the process in January and influenced the process to follow SOCI instead of WHO National e-health toolkit guidelines. But the work has been already done, so we tried to adapt our work. And before the e-health steering committee was formed, collaboration between stakeholders was modest, and often some important stakeholders didn't work together like they supposed. Sorry. An important step in the digitization of healthcare in Serbia was the opening of the position in the Prime Minister office for digital health advisory. So she realized that she needed to employ someone who will be in charge for overseeing the whole process and leading the whole work. This person with extensive experience was a good incentive in Serbia and help with communication between stakeholders, which was very important back to that time. Because, like you all know, it is very important to include all stakeholders in this process, especially Ministry of Health. There is an NGO called NALED in Serbia, which is an experienced organization in this field. NALED has received a mandate from the Prime Minister office to help with drafting the strategy and action plan. The previous strategy expired in 2015, like I mentioned, and there was a need to make an analysis of the current state in Serbia as one of the steps in drafting a new strategy, as well as to count what was done for the previous strategy and what wasn't. Following the law on planning and with the help of NALED, the idea was to create 3 workshops where all members of the working group would confirm and apply everything they had worked in the previous months and spent a lot of hours together. Sorry. During that period, CISU started with activities in Serbia, and it was good time for us to present the SOCI tool and explain its advantages and benefits that Serbia can take advantage at that point. Sorry, my technical issues. Okay, in order to provide a framework for the development of strategy, the strategy and action plan working group led by a digital health advisor selected WHO ITU National e-health strategy toolkit, and then CISU, we at CISU proposed the use of an assessment tool to review the status of Serbian health information system and provide the foundation for development of the new strategy and action plan. Since the WHO tool was already selected, the hardest part of the job was explaining and introducing people about what the SOCI tool is and what benefits we can have in Serbia. We were also helping. We were also helped in this step by our colleague Derek, our CISU colleague Derek, who did the tool mapping and showed that WHO and SOCI tools are quite similar, Mapping was done by domains, and you already saw domains a few moments earlier when Alimo was explaining. And that work that has already been started can continue with the SOCI tool in Serbia. SOCI was implemented in tandem with development of the e-health strategy and action plan, and leveraged the convenes of the meetings planned so that the findings of the SOCI could inform the strategy and action plan. Before the SOCI was conducted, a mapping of the SOCI domains to the components of WHO ITU e-health strategy toolkit to illustrate how tools complemented each other. This was an important moment in Serbia because it was indication that the already done part of the job should not be discarded but used. After the Prime Minister office accepted the SOCI tool and agreed to use it, the tool for both a larger and expanded group of stakeholders should have been explained. The result of Health Information System Maturity Assessment can lead to strategically connected continuous improvement processes and are critical to gain a thorough understanding of current status and future opportunity for the national HIS. And like I mentioned, CISU started in Serbia spring back in 2020. First, and our team was in place after month and a half. Work plan for year one was built to cover activities around data use, data quality, and AI. State institutions in Serbia didn't have common touch points, but work on digitization brought them closer together and helped establish channels of communication between them. CISU contributed to that momentum, which helped build better communication links among institutions with daily advocating led by digital health advisor at the Prime Minister office. SOCI results in Serbia are shown on this slide, and in the I want to spend too much time on this slide, and next two slides are showing the spider chart where you can see what was the current state back in 2021 after we did SOCI assessment in Serbia. And this slide is showing what should be action plan targets. So after we adopt 2-year action plan, those were expectations to have those numbers after implementation of action plan. Unfortunately, political situation in Serbia was unstable, and we were between governments more than 6 months. So that delayed some activities. And right now we are trying to draft a new action plan, which will be valid for next 2 years. Assessment approach. So the scope of the assessment was defined like this: the health information system stages of continuous improvement or SOCI assessment aims to comprehensively access to level of maturity of health information system at all national level and subnational, and establish a baseline as well as steps towards improvement. Digital health system used in Serbia that are implemented and owned by Ministry of Health, Institute for Public Health, Serbian Armed Force, Agency for Medicines and Medical Devices in Serbia, and the private health sector have been included in the scope. The assessment looked across all domains of the HIS and considered systems and process for digital for the health facility to the provincial, regional, and national level. Assessment tool SOCI. After a thorough examination of the SOCI tool and its alignment with WHO tool, the working group formed by the e-health steering committee decided to adopt and use SOCI tool. The tool measures current and desired AJS status in 5 AJS core domains across 13 components and 39 subcomponents. The status is measured across 5 stages. You already saw that, so I won't go through that. Okay, now let's talk about assessment process, objectives, and assessment approach. So assessment process, sorry, Diane, how much time I have left?
I think under 5 minutes.
5
You
minutes.
still have a lot of time, Milan.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Okay, so first step was establish the assessment core team. The assessment core team was formed by 4 entities who had already been engaged as a part of the strategy and action plan working group. These included the Prime Minister Office, Ministry of Health, Public Health Sector, IPH, Institute for Public Health, Batut, and NGO NALED. These stakeholders were chosen based on their broad knowledge of the health system and other governmental systems in Serbia, processes and policies in the health information system. Second step was to define the scope and assessment approach. Prior to defining the scope and the assessment approach, multiple meetings took place in order to achieve the following. First, we should get buy-in of the key high-level staff or leaders. After that, we needed a better understanding of the SOCI tool and what needs to be done. Then, understanding how to best conduct the exercise and involved key stakeholders. These initial meetings involved the core assessment team and addressed issues such as terminology of SOCI, how to score, types of key documents to support the scoring or evidence, length of the action planning and filling of the SOCI tool. Given the development of the e-health strategy was underway with some key documents and analysis already performed, the team decided the best approach would be for the core assessment team to define an initial draft of the SOCI and to present this to broader working group for their review and discussion. AJS SOCI assessment tool, Excel tool, was used in Serbia and can be administered in multiple ways, including self-administered, external administrator, and hybrid approach. In order to balance the need for a stakeholder buy-in, as well as leverage external experience and mitigate potential bias, the hybrid approach was selected. Third step was carry out landscape analysis and desk reviews. Throughout landscape analysis was carried out in the initial phase of this task throughout the collection and analysis of relevant documents available at the Ministry of Health, Institute for Public Health, Batut, and other partner organizations. At the request of the e-health steering committee, CHISU provided experienced health experts who developed a summary of the current state of analysis, including all documents available from desk review. Examples of documents reviewed included legislation, different kind of laws. I can't remember all of them, but mainly those laws were and sub-laws on health evidence and documents, law for medical devices, law for patient rights, law on e-business, etc.
Under 1 minute.
1 minute.
1
okay.
minute.
Thank you. Step 4 was to select key stakeholders, which we already did through the technical working groups. And final step 5 was to organize assessment workshops. In order to support the development of the e-health strategy and action plan, we organized a total of 3 workshops. The 3 two-day workshops were organized in June, August, and September 2021. And SOCI tool was included in all three sessions. So in the first workshop, we got an overview of SOCI toolkit. Second workshop, during that meeting, the stakeholders broke into the small groups and began defining the current and future states across the domains. And third workshop, we got results from the working group assessment were presented to the wider group of discussion and to achieve consensus. The result of the working group assessment of the current and future state of the e-health information system were used, informed, and developed of the 2-year action plan and 5-year e-health strategy.
Okay,
and
your
you saw
time
the
is
results.
up, Milan. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that. And if you have any questions, of course, I'll let to you, Diane, to facilitate.
Okay.